She was the disabled girl they all mocked. They filmed her for laughs, bullied her for views. But the next day, those same bullies would be standing beside her, not to mock her, but to follow her lead. Because the girl in the wheelchair was about to teach the whole school what real strength looks like. Emma Williams had never asked to be noticed. She just wanted to get through each school day without being laughed at or stared down. But at Maplewood High, that was too much to ask. Every hallway she rolled through in her wheelchair came with snickers, whispers, and side glances. But nothing compared to the humiliation she faced one chilly Tuesday afternoon. As she made her way home, moving slowly along the sidewalk in front of the school, a familiar group of bullies, Sarah, Megan, Lucas, and Brandon, cornered her like predators circling prey. With their phones out and smirks glued to their faces, they mocked her disability like it was a game. "Hey, Princess Wheels," Sarah sneered, tilting her phone vertically to record. Brandon, the worst of the bunch, let go of his aggressive black dog's leash, sending it barking and lunging at Emma, who froze in terror, unable to move or escape. It all happened so fast her hands trembled, her breathing quickened, and all she could do was stare at those snarling teeth getting closer. But just when the chaos felt unbearable, a voice cut through the scene like a knife through glass. "That's enough." Jake Baker, the school's star football player and one of the only people who never joined the teasing, appeared out of nowhere, his blue varsity jacket flapping in the breeze as he stepped between Emma and the dog. With one firm hand, he grabbed the leash and pulled the dog away, his eyes narrowing at the bullies. "You think it's funny? Scaring someone who can't run?" The bullies didn't say a word, they just backed off, awkward and guilty though. Not yet changed, but the damage was done. The videos they took? Already uploaded. Already viral. That night, while Emma lay in bed staring at the ceiling, her face burning with embarrassment, the rest of the school was laughing at her on TikTok. She wasn't just Emma anymore, she was Wheelchair Girl Gets Barked At, a meme with hundreds of cruel comments. Her world, already small, had just collapsed even more. The next day, the principal addressed the entire school in a stiff voice that tried to hide his fury. The bullying video had made it all the way to the school board, and it was clear action had to be taken, not just detention, but transformation. So he announced a mandatory social awareness project where students had to work in mixed groups to present on kindness, empathy, and inclusivity. The twist? The very bullies who humiliated Emma were now forced to work with her. Sarah, Megan, Lucas, and Brandon all groaned as their names were read aloud beside hers. Emma didn't react, she just nodded silently, refusing to show weakness. From day one, the group dynamic was tense. They ignored her, spoke over her, whispered behind her back. Megan deliberately rolled her eyes every time Emma spoke, while Lucas mumbled, "She can't even keep up," under his breath. But Emma didn't complain. She listened. She planned. She worked twice as hard as everyone else. And slowly, without realizing it, they began to depend on her. Her ideas were sharp. Her research, thorough. She didn't just carry her part of the project, she carried the team. One afternoon, while reviewing her slides, even Sarah looked up and said quietly, "This actually looks good." Emma smiled, not out of pride, but patience. She wasn't trying to win them over. She was simply being herself. For the first time, the bullies began to see that the girl they mocked had more strength, intelligence, and leadership than any of them combined. Lucas, who used to lead the jokes, now found himself watching her with a strange mix of admiration and guilt. "We bullied her for nothing," he whispered once when she wasn't around. Jake watched all of this from a distance. He wasn't in their group, but every time he saw Emma, he saw the same quiet resilience, the kind that didn't yell, didn't cry, but changed people simply by enduring. The same girl they once saw as weak was slowly becoming the strongest one among them. The day of the presentation arrived like a storm cloud hanging over everyone's heads. The auditorium was full students, teachers, even a few parents who had caught wind of the scandal online. Everyone expected awkwardness from Emma's group, maybe even failure. But what happened next flipped the entire school's expectations upside down. Emma wheeled herself to center stage with poise that none of them had seen before. Dressed simply in her blue sweater and jeans, hair pulled back, she looked every bit the underdog, but when she spoke, her voice carried the kind of weight that silenced a crowd. "I've been laughed at," she began, "not for who I am, but for what I sit in. And the saddest part? It wasn't just the bullies. It was all the phones, the shares, the views. It was everyone who saw it and did nothing." Her words weren't angry, they were honest, piercing and raw. She didn't just present the project. She poured her soul into it. She told the story of what it felt like to be mocked, to go home with 100 notifications and feel your heart break with everyone. As she finished, the room was silent. Sarah was crying. Brandon looked down at his shoes. Megan couldn't meet her eyes. And then something no one expected happened. They stood. One by one, the same students who laughed before now rose to their feet and clapped, not out of pity, but respect. The principal took the mic and announced that Emma would be the school's first ever student anti-bullying ambassador. The auditorium erupted. And for the first time in her life, Emma felt seen not as a girl in a wheelchair, but as someone who had turned her pain into purpose. In the weeks that followed, Emma didn't fade from the spotlight, she embraced it. With grace, she founded a student-led group called Stronger Than You Think, dedicated to supporting students who had experienced bullying, exclusion, or emotional abuse. What started as a club of 5 turned into a movement of hundreds. Posters filled the hallways. Monthly events were held. Emma gave talks not just in Maplewood High, but in neighboring schools as well. Her story traveled beyond their town-picked, up by news outlets, podcasts, and even national TV. But Emma never acted like a celebrity. She still rolled through the same hallways, still wore the same shoes, still waved at Jake when she saw him. Jake, now more than just her defender, had become her closest friend and strongest ally. The bullies? They had changed too. Sarah apologized publicly and became one of the group's most active volunteers. Lucas helped design the group's website. Megan wrote an article titled, "How I Hurt Someone I Didn't Know," that went viral for all the right reasons. Maplewood High had changed, but not because of punishment, not because of rules, but because one girl chose to respond to cruelty, not with revenge, but with kindness. In her final speech at the school's senior assembly, Emma looked at the crowd and said, "You don't have to walk to stand up for yourself, and you don't need legs to carry strength. All it takes is the choice to stay kind, even when it's hardest." She paused, then smiled. The auditorium roared with applause. And at the back of the room, the same people who once laughed at her now stood shoulder to shoulder, hands together, eyes shining, not just students anymore, but believers in the quiet power of one girl who refused to be broken.